Finding Me by Rodney Hamright and Pseudowright. Deep within the soul of Bisman, there burned an inextinguishable flame, a profound inner strength that refused to be snuffed out, even in his darkest hour. Though life's trials had beaten him down time and again, leaving him battered and questioning his worth, an ineffable force propelled him ever forward on his journey of self-discovery. Get it today at Amazon, or download at Audible and iTunes, or listen on Apple Podcast.
Chapter 1. Bisman, Biz, Thackeray. As I shuffled through the city streets, my feet seemed to drag along with the weight of 1,000 missteps. The evening laid its cool hand on the back of my neck, but even that touch felt distant, as if I were separated from the world by an invisible barrier. I didn't know where I was going, nor did I care to find out. Each street corner looked the same as the last, each passing face just another blur in the sea of my indifference. A glance in a storefront window caught me off guard. The reflection staring back wasn't the man I once recognized. Gone was the sheen of confidence that used to gloss over my dark skin like a protective veneer. All that remained was a canvas of worn features. My hair, unkempt and rebellious, no longer bore the meticulous styling of a man with purpose. Instead, it sprawled across my forehead in disarray, much like the thoughts tumbling through my mind. Those eyes, my eyes, carried stories within their depths. Once bright with aspirations and the comfort of privilege, they now mirrored the haunting specters of loss and regret. They spoke of sleepless nights wrestling with the void within, a relentless adversary that had chiseled away at my soul, leaving behind hollows where hope used to reside. I traced the contours of my scruffy beard, feeling the prickly evidence of days, maybe weeks, without proper care. It was a testament to the journey I'd been on, a far cry from the smooth, well-groomed image of success I had once presented to the world. This beard was a declaration of my fall from grace, and yet, somewhere beneath the roughness and the sorrow, there was an ember of resilience waiting to be stoked into flame again. My steps continued, aimless but persistent, echoing the rhythm of my beating heart. A reminder that despite everything, I was still here, still moving, still alive. And perhaps that was the first step toward something more, toward that mountain retreat hidden high above, where solitude could teach me the lessons I needed to learn. I walked, my feet knowing the way even as my mind drifted. The city pulsed around me, a living, breathing entity of steel and stone, but it was the heartbeat of humanity that drew me now to the marketplace, a sea of life that should have stirred something within me. Should have. Instead, I watched from the fringes, an observer rather than a participant. Vendors called out their wares with voices that rose above the din, a symphony of commerce in full swing. Tomatoes gleamed like polished rubies, greens waved from their crates like fans in church on a hot Sunday, and fish lay glistening on beds of ice, their silver scales refracting light into 1,000 tiny rainbows. Fresh herbs, get your fresh herbs here. A merchant's chant snagged on my ears, yet it was as if he spoke from another world. Can't cook no good meal without some spice, brother. Another voice tried to beckon, but it was lost in the void between us. I longed to reach across that chasm, to feel the camaraderie of haggling over prices, or the simple pleasure of tasting a ripe peach. But the yearning twisted into a knot inside me, for I knew I was a ghost haunting these streets, unseen in my despair, untouched by the warmth that brushed against everyone but me. Sweet potatoes, sweet as honey, come get some, and oh, how they reminded me of Mama's cooking, the way she'd let them caramelize until they were nearly candied, and filling the house with a scent that meant safety, meant family. But those days were whispers of a past life, back when purpose coursed through my veins as surely as blood, when every step was a march toward a future bright with promise. Now, those steps led nowhere, wandering circles in a dance of disillusionment. Hey man, you alright? The question cut through the haze of nostalgia, a vendor eyeing me with a mix of concern and curiosity. I managed a nod, the lie easier than explaining the truth. That I was a man untethered, longing desperately for an anchor in the relentless tide of existence. Take care now, he said, turning back to his potential customers, leaving me adrift once more. The marketplace bustled and thrived, a stark contrast to the stillness within me. It seemed an eternity since I'd last felt connected to such vitality. How had I come to this? Once a man of substance, now reduced to a shadow skirting the edges of life, searching for a path back to myself. Lord, give me a sign, I murmured, unsure if I was praying or simply casting words into the wind. Whether it was divine intervention or the stubborn spark of my own resilience, I didn't know. But as I stood there amidst the living flow of the marketplace, I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't remain lost in this limbo. Something had to change. I had to change. And maybe, just maybe, that mountain retreat, sanctuary of solitude, was where I would find the missing pieces of myself, scattered like breadcrumbs along the trail of my former life. With a breath that tasted like the first step of a long journey, I turned my back on the marketplace and set my sights on the horizon, where mountains waited with promises of revelations yet to be discovered. I shuffled on, my feet scuffing against the uneven pavement. Each step was a strained note in the symphony of the city's heartbeats. I paused near a street corner where a performer had gathered a small crowd, his fingers dancing across the strings of an old guitar. His voice, rough and soulful, crooned a tune that spoke of love and loss, of better days long gone. "Hey man, you feelin' this?" A bystander nudged me with an elbow, his face alight with the music's joy. I managed a nod, my lips curving into a semblance of a smile, but it was like wearing someone else's expression, ill-fitting and uncomfortable. The melody tugged at something within me, yet it remained out of reach, a language I'd forgotten how to speak. I moved on, weaving through clusters of people who laughed and bargained and lived. Their ease with each other was a foreign concept, a reminder of what I lacked. Couples strolled hand in hand, their shared glances a private conversation. Families huddled around food stands, children tugging at sleeves for another treat, while parents exchanged looks over their heads, a silent pact of enduring love. Their happiness cast a shadow over me, making my solitude more pronounced. The warmth of their connections only deepened the chill I felt inside. They were portraits of life's vivid colors, while I was a sketch in charcoal, the stark outline of a man who once knew vibrancy. I watched them, these strangers, as they wove the fabric of their lives with threads I no longer possessed. It was a scene I could admire but not touch, let alone be part of. My existence felt like an echo in a room where laughter had died away, leaving behind the heavy air of things unsaid, dreams unfulfilled. "Sir, can I interest you in some sweet potato pie?" "Best in town," a vendor called out, her table laden with homemade goods. Her hands, worn from work and love, offered up a sample, a gesture of inclusion. "Thank you, ma'am," I said, accepting the treat. The sweetness burst on my tongue, a fleeting moment of delight that should have bridged the gap between myself and the world. But as I chewed, the flavor turned bittersweet, a reminder of Sunday dinners at my mother's table, a lifetime ago. "Good, ain't it?" she smiled, her eyes crinkling with pride. "My secret recipe, been in the family for generations." "Very good," I replied, though the words tasted hollow. I wanted to tell her about the recipes of my own heritage, about the connection I sought to reclaim, but the truth was a lump in my throat, unspoken. Instead, I placed a few coins on her table and drifted away, the sweetness on my lips already fading. The marketplace was a living entity, pulsing with the beat of humanity, yet I was adrift in its midst, untouched by its rhythm. I yearned for the comfort of belonging, for the solace of belief that had been stripped bare from my soul. And so, I walked on, carrying the weight of my disconnection like a shroud, searching for a path that would lead me back to myself, back to the sense of home I'd lost somewhere along the way. I shuffled on, away from the laughter and the clinking of coins that filled the market air, a symphony in which I had no part. My feet, scuffed shoes scraping against concrete, carried me beneath the weeping sky that threatened to unleash a deluge upon the city's careless joy. Pausing at an intersection, the red hand of the pedestrian signal glaring at me, I leaned against the cold metal pole. It was there, amidst the blare of horns and the shuffle of countless others marching through their days, that reflection wrapped its stealthy fingers around me. Where did it all turn? I muttered under my breath, tracing the roadmap of choices that led me here, to this corner, to this alienation, to the feeling of lost something that gnawed at my insides. Each decision seemed right at the time, each loss a mere stumble, but together they formed a labyrinth with no discernible exit. Was it arrogance that brought me low, or just the blindness of youth? My voice, barely a whisper, was drowned out by the city's heartbeat. But the questions lingered, palpable as the grime on the buildings I passed. The rise and fall of Thackeray fortunes felt like mythology now, tales told to children to teach them humility or to warn them of hubris. Maybe I'm searching for something that was never really mine, I conceded, eyes tracing the cracks in the pavement. My worth, once measured in stocks and statements, now felt as ephemeral as the clouds overhead. What was I, if not the sum of my accolades? Who was I, if not the heir to a legacy now squandered? "Hey man, you all right?" A passerby's question jolted me from my reverie. He didn't wait for an answer, his concern as fleeting as a shadow at noon. "Been better," I replied to his retreating back, my words lost in the din. The truth was a heavier burden than any tangible load, one that bent my shoulders and dulled my gaze. Perhaps, I began again, the thought forming slowly, perhaps purpose isn't found, but made. The notion swirled in my mind, elusive yet persistent. Maybe this sense of worthlessness was not an end, but a beginning, a blank canvas upon which to paint anew. Got to be more than this, I murmured, pushing off the pole as the pedestrian signal turned white, beckoning me forward. With each step, I felt the stirrings of resolve intertwine with the tendrils of doubt. To reclaim a sense of purpose would require more than just longing. It would demand action, courage, and perhaps a journey to places unexplored. Sanctuary of Solitude, the name whispered through my thoughts. The remote mountain retreat where I might strip away the clutter of past and expectation and seek the essence of who I could become. Up there, maybe I'll find it, the part of me that's missing, I resolved with a deep, steadying breath. The city continued to surge around me, indifferent to my epiphany. Yet within, a shift had begun, a subtle lifting of the shroud as I contemplated the path ahead. I quickened my pace, the concrete jungle of the city blurring past in a smudge of gray and steel. With every block I traversed, frustration clenched within me like a fist. The stream of car horns and the clamor of voices seemed to mock my desperation. I was searching for a sign, a spark, anything to pull me from this mire of despair. "Come on, Bisman," I muttered to myself. "There's got to be something." My eyes darted from face to face in the crowd, seeking an anchor, a lifeline in the sea of strangers. But each glance returned void, as if everyone held a piece of the puzzle except for me. Sweat beaded on my brow as I hastened through the throngs, my heart pounding a rhythm of urgency. I could feel the ghosts of my past decisions haunting my steps, the weight of what I'd lost pressing down upon me. The void within, my constant shadow, loomed large, threatening to swallow me whole. "Need a breather," I gasped as the pressure built, a crescendo of silent screams in my mind. Turning off the main thoroughfare, I stumbled into a side street that promised a momentary escape from the relentless buzz of the city. There it was, a pocket of peace amidst the chaos, a small park cradled by aging brownstones. I shuffled towards a solitary bench, its chipped paint and weathered wood a testament to countless others who had sought respite here before me. I sat, the coolness of the shade a balm to my heated skin. A deep sigh escaped my lips as I closed my eyes, allowing the distant hum of life to fade into the background. In this secluded spot, the world felt different, slower, kinder, as if acknowledging my need for pause. "Where did you go wrong, Bisman?" I whispered to myself, my thoughts drifting like autumn leaves caught in a gentle breeze. Here in the quiet, the nostalgia of better days crept in, wrapping around me like a quilt made from fragments of memory. Used to think money would make everything right, I reflected, a rueful chuckle escaping me. Guess all it bought was more ways to lose myself. As the laughter died, a sense of clarity began to emerge from the fog of confusion. It wasn't about reclaiming what was lost, it was about finding what had never truly been mine, the authentic essence of who I am. "Growing ain't easy," I murmured, the words for no one but myself. It was a truth etched in the lines of my folks' faces, sung in the blues that quivered through hot summer nights. Growth was a path paved with stumbling blocks, but it was the only road worth taking. Belief and growth, I repeated like a mantra, the simple vocabulary of self-affirmation. They were my companions on this journey, guiding me away from the turmoil and towards the promise of understanding. Somewhere beyond the skyline, among the peaks of the remote mountain retreat, maybe I'd find the strength I needed. "Sanctuary of Solitude," the name whispered once more, a beckoning call. Opening my eyes, I watched a lone leaf spiral to the ground, a dance of surrender and trust. It was time to let go, to fall into the unknown with the hope that where I landed would be the start of something real, something true. With newfound resolve, I rose from the bench. The city awaited, but not for long. My journey was calling, and I was ready to answer. I stood up, the weight of lingering despair lifting off my shoulders like a shroud. My feet felt rooted to the earth, yet eager to move, to stride towards a horizon that had always seemed blurred by the fog of my own indecision. "Can't keep living like this," I whispered to myself. The words felt like gravel in my mouth, harsh and undeniable. I'd been adrift in a sea of confusion, letting the tides of circumstance pull me this way and that. But the steady beat of my heart was a reminder, a drum calling me back to myself. My life was a patchwork quilt of experiences, frayed at the edges, but mine to mend. The city's noise faded into a dull roar in the back of my mind. For so long I had looked for answers in its relentless hustle, believing that if I moved fast enough, I could outrun the shadows clinging to my footsteps. but speed didn't matter when you were running in circles. Time to break the cycle, I decided, the words cutting through the din as if slicing through thick air. I knew that the path to belief wasn't paved with quick fixes or shiny distractions. It was a journey inward, a climb up a mountain where the only baggage I could carry was hope. Sanctuary of solitude, I thought again, rolling the syllables around like beads in my hand. They held a promise, one of stillness and clarity, where the only voice I'd have to listen to would be my own, echoing against ancient stone walls. The decision settled within me, firm and unyielding. I would leave behind these concrete valleys and steel rivers, take the winding road through forests where my ancestors' spirits lingered, whispering wisdom through the leaves. I'd find that remote mountain retreat nestled in the arms of giants, standing tall above the rest of the world. Strength don't come from what you can carry, my granddaddy used to say, his voice a balm on bruised days. It comes from what you can bear to let go. Now I understood. To grow, I had to shed the skin of the past, step naked into the future with only my resolve to clothe me. Belief, growth. The words became my North Star as I turned my back on the city, each step a testament to the power of starting anew. I was Bisman Thackeray, born of privilege, stripped to the bone by life, but here I stood, resilient, ready to reclaim my spirit from the ashes of who I once was. As the cityscape receded into the distance, the mountains called out to me, their peaks piercing the heavens, offering solace to a weary traveler. There, in the sanctuary of solitude, I would learn to breathe again, to fill my lungs with the crisp, pine-scented air of possibility. "Here I come," I said aloud, my voice steady and sure. The road ahead was uncertain, but every fiber of my being thrummed with the knowledge that it was mine to walk. Ahead lay belief, growth, and the unwavering conviction that I would find the strength to forge a new path, one step at a time.
Finding Me by Rodney Hamright and Wright. Deep within the soul of Bisman, there burned an inextinguishable flame, a profound inner strength that refused to be snuffed out, even in his darkest hour. Though life's trials had beaten him down time and again, leaving him battered and questioning his worth, an ineffable force propelled him ever forward on his journey of self-discovery. Get it today at Amazon or download at Audible and iTunes or listen on Apple Podcasts.